So I started playing this ROM hack of FireRed Essence, a quality of life hack by GCAS. It has everything in the original FireRed and Leaf Green games, except it has unlimited TMs and HMs are forgettable, and you can catch all Pokemon in the Pokedex. Trade evolutions evolve at level 37. I'd recommend it if you want to play the vanilla ROM but with quality of life stuff. It's really great. I actually got the idea to make this recording of this hack midway through playthrough. I'd already gotten my starter and most of my other Pokemon. I don't have the footage of the first two gyms. I am starting the footage of me playing when I first caught a Drowsy and Ekans. My party thus far is an Ekans named Cobra, a Drowsy named Sleepy, a Gloom named Flower, and Speed the Sparrow. I also have a Nidoking called Pipsqueak. I found that name ironic, but when I looked at Nidoran I was like, he's a Pipsqueak, and so it stuck. Anyway, onto the game. So I started this footage with grinding, unfortunately. I had to level up my Ekans and Drowsy in Route 11, I believe, just past Vermilion City. I was actually really enjoying Ekans vibes. Look at her. It sucks I didn't call her Jessie in hindsight. Anyway, I taught her Glare, and then I realized I had unlimited TMs and could teach her Secret Power and Dig, which made grinding way easier. Look, she even evolved during some trainer battle. I also grind Sleepy to 18, and then prepare myself for the SSN by buying some extra super potions just in case. I then enter the SSN, which I go on to take the myriad of trainers training up Drowsy mainly because he's a little underleveled compared to my other Pokemon. I find Brick Break, teach it to Drowsy, I collect items, take out trainers, and finally I'm ready to face Green, as I named him in this game. I know, creative. Anyway, he leads with Pidgeotto, big surprise there, and I lead with Cobra. Figured they would be a good sweeper matchup. However, I try to Glare and he follows up with a Sand attack, and I keep trying to Glare and end up switching to Speed because his accuracy can't be lowered. I Secret Power Pidgeotto and even paralyze him. He then switches to Raticate and I switch to Drowsy to try my new Brick Break TM out to size. He dies to a crit. He goes to use Kadabra, but Drowsy's special defense is so good and him being a mixed attacker is handy. He uses Disable, but I was going to use Secret Power anyway. We get a double paralysis because of his Synchronize ability. He uses Confusion and it does next to nothing, but I get confused. I hope for one more successful hit and it lands. I decide to use Pipsqueak in this final battle against Charmeleon, so I dig a hole and wham! That was easy. I'm going to skip ahead here and say I got cut, sped over to the Vermilion City gym after teaching Flower Cut momentarily. I bet all the trainers in there, solved the worst gym puzzle in Pokemon history, and was ready to beat the Electric Gym, Lieutenant Surge. He starts with a Voltorb and I lead with Pipsqueak. I dig and take him out easily. I dig again when Pikachu double teams and I get lucky and hit him again, however I get paralyzed. I decide to trade in Cobra with Raichu because he knows Dig too, however Raichu is much faster. Does 2 double teams, I land 1 Dig but he heals. I decide it's more worth it to just Secret Power because Dig is too much of a risk with double team. He shockwaves me, but then I Secret Power him within an inch of his life. I decide to let Cobra faint in exchange for healing Pipsqueak's paralysis. I end up taking him out with a simple Water Pulse. Yay, the Thunder Badge is mine. I go through Diglett Tunnel and pick up a Clefairy in Mount Moon while backtracking, deciding I need more special Pokemon on my team. I call him Dude, just cause, why not? Also, Speed evolves into Pharaoh while I was originally looking for a Nidoran girl to add to my team. Not much else happens apart from I evolve Dude because I don't plan on using any of his moveset anyway. I train Dude for a while and then make my way over to Lavender Town through the myriad of trainers in Rock Tunnel. Sleepy also evolves into Hypno. Here I make a hard decision but I realized I really wanted to make. This is a shout out to my friend whose gaming name is Snow, and his favourite Pokemon is the Alolan Vulpix line. He asked me once to catch him a male Vulpix and call it Snow, so that's exactly what I did. This one's for you, bro. I decide to swap him out for Cobra, so I can get some more special sweeping in my team. I trained Snow carefully until level 29 when he learned Flamethrower. I then sort of realised in Celadon City that you can get Flamethrower TM for less than 10,000 Pokedollars in this hack. And I later buy pretty much every item in the game store with little money and teach mainly Dude and Pipsqueak some quality elemental TMs. This is a great ROM hack, guys. I evolve Snow in Celadon City with a Firestone. And this is the best way to take on Erica. She starts with Victory Bell, which I sweep easily with Snow. I then also sweep her Tangler and almost sweep her Vileplume, but she stun spores me and heals. I quick attack her and she acids me, but that gives me enough headroom for a 2-hit KO. Erica never was the hardest gym. The Rainbow Badge is mine and so is Giga Drain for Flower. I speed through the puzzles in the Game Corner basement and evolve Flower into Vileplume, realizing I forgot to earlier. This prepares me for the first match with Giovanni. He leads with Onyx, which I easily Water Pulse with Pipsqueak. I also Water Pulse his Rhyhorn. His Kangaskhan, however, is more of a threat. She Fake Outs me, and my double kick doesn't do as much damage as I was hoping. Her Mega Punch misses and I decide to switch to Sleepy with his Brick Break. Her Mega Punch lands and does a lot of stab damage. I Brick Break and it does more than I was hoping for. She bites me and I Brick Break her for the knockout. Giovanni is beaten for now. I go over to Lavender Town and pick up the Pokeflute while realizing I can't find the footage for my rival battle. I decide to make my way south toward Fuchsia City. It was a hard grind here and on Cycling Road, but I eventually make it to Silphco to verse my rival again as well as Giovanni. Green leads with Pidgeot and I lead with Dude. He wing attacks, which doesn't do all that much, and I Thunderbolt him. We repeat this and I get the KO. I also Thunderbolt his Gyarados in a 2-hit KO. I decide to keep Dude in for Charizard and I take 2 massive flamethrowers. I quickly switch to speed and Hyper Beam him to knock out his Charizard. I then easily take out his Execute with Snow's Flamethrower, and Alakazam is 2-hit KO'd with Sleepy's Shadow Ball. Rival beaten again. I then go on to take Giovanni again. He leads with a Nidorino, which I 2-hit KO with Pipsqueak's Dig. I then Brick Break Kangaskhan with a 2-hit KO. I use Flower's Giga Drain to take out his Rhyhorn. I send in Sleepy with her Nidoqueen, but my Psychic doesn't do all that much. I take a pretty brutal Body Slam, however high roll and knock out Giovanni's Nidoqueen for the win. I then go over to Koga's gym for the Soul Badge. I sweep his Coughing with a Psychic. However, his Muck is built for special damage and he Toxics my Sleepy. I take out the Muck and the following Coughing while taking damage. However, his Wheezing barely survives. Here I decide to switch to Dude, and despite him healing Wheezing, Dude 1-hit shots his Wheezing with a Psychic. Another win. I head straight over to Saffron City to take on Sabrina. Her Kadabra is no match for Sleepy Shadow Ball. Her Venomoth also falls quick to my Psychic. Her Mr. Mime dies to a Shadow Ball, and surprisingly she is not a threat at all as her Alakazam also gets 1-hit KO'd by Sleepy. He just swept the whole gym. I then get the Surf HM in the Safari Zone, go through the Seafoam Islands and the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island in preparation for the Fire Gym with Blaine. He leads with Growlithe, which I easily surf with Pipsqueak. I also surf his Ponyta. His Rapidash gets knocked out in a 2-hit KO, but does massive damage to Pipsqueak with her Fire Blast. I expect a massive Fire Blast from his level 47 Arcanine, but he misses, and I 2-hit KO him with Surf as well. That was an easier gym than I expected. I train a bit and teach Flower, Sunny Day and Solar Beam to do some massive damage to some poor trainers when preparing for the Earth Badge with Giovanni. He leads with a Rhyhorn, which I easily sweep with Surf. I'm even luckily faster than a Dugtrio and sweep him too. I teach Pipsqueak Megahorn in the process. I surf his Nidoqueen, however she Earthquakes me with a crit, ending my Pipsqueak. I send out Sleepy for a Psychic and get the knockout. His Nidoking crits me with an Earthquake, ow. I get one Psychic in, but he barely hangs on. I decide to heal here, and so does he. His Earthquake doesn't do nearly enough, and my Psychic has him in the red again. He tries to heal, but I know I've won with my superior speed. I Solar Beam his Rhyhorn for fun to earn the final gym badge and the right to enter the Pokemon League. My penultimate rival battle approaches, and I decide to go straight for it and see if I can win. He leads with Pidgeot's wing attack and I randomly freeze him with an Ice Beam. That was lucky. I Thunderbolt him twice more for the finish. I Earthquake his Rhyhorn and Shadow Ball his Alakazam once, but it gets disabled. His calm-minded Psychic doesn't do all that much, and I return him for the knockout. Here I forget I have a Ninetales and send in Speed, who flies and gets Stun Spored. He takes in Sunlight and I know I'm in trouble. Here I run right past Ninetales and go for Pipsqueak and his Megahorn. However, it misses and he Stun Spores me again. I'm once again paralyzed and finally realize I can end him quickly with Snow. He easily takes a Solar Beam and flamethrowers him for the KO. I decide to try my luck on a Solar Beam with Flower, which is the wrong decision. He Hydro Pumps with Gyarados, but I use Sunny Day. He Rain Dances here, and my Solar Beam doesn't do nearly as much. I switch to Dude, but the Rain Danced Hydro Pump takes her out before she lands a Thunderbolt. I decide to switch to Sleepy with his Bulk, and land a Psychic and then a Return, while he Rain Dances again. He leers me, but I get the return in again for the knockout. I am lucky he was Rain Dancing because this ups my Pipsqueak Surf and allows me to punish his Charizard for a 2-hit KO after I heal, despite being 10 levels below him. My rival is beaten once again. I make my way through Victory Road and start grinding my Pokemon a bit before the league. However, as I am grinding my speed, I randomly run across a shiny Dugong in Seafoam Islands. I wasn't recording at this time as I knew grinding would take me a while, but I started the recording while I had just found him. I quickly catch him with an Ultra Ball, and I actually decide to trade in Flower for my new Shimmer, the shiny Dugong. I am so happy with the find. Look at his sparkle as he goes into battle. I love it. I go on to train all my Pokemon to level 53, figuring that was an okay level to attempt the league. I am ready to go after getting some items and rearranging movesets, and so off we go. Time for the Elite Four and the Champion. Lorelei, the Ice Master, begins with the Dugong. I lead with Sleepy. I use Brick Break and she safeguards, protecting her team from status conditions. I Brick Break again and she uses Surf, which doesn't do a whole lot. I continue to Brick Break twice after she heals. She surfs me again, I Brick Break to finish. I then proceed to Calm Mind as she brings out her Lapras, and she uses Ice Beam. I Calm Mind again, she uses Body Slam and then Confuse Ray as I continue to Calm Mind. I heal as things get spicy and she keeps Body Slamming. I decide to try a Thunderbolt and it doesn't knock out her bulky Lapras. I decide to Calm Mind again, but she Body Slams and paralyzes me. I decide to full restore here. I Calm Mind one more time and she confuses me again. My Thunderbolt lands. I'm pretty confident as she brings out Cloyster, being all set up. She protects once, and I snap out of confusion and then finish Cloyster. I then go on to sweep Slowbro, and I think I can take her Jinx, but it's not enough. With no physical moves, she's quite a threat. She keeps lovely kissing me as I try to Thunderbolt her. In the end, I swap out to Sleepy, who almost faints to a critical Ice Punch. I Hyper Potion and get attracted. I hope for the land on her evasive Jinx, and finally my Brick Break lands, ending the battle. Next is Bruno. I had a feeling I remembered Onyx from earlier playthroughs, and so he faints easily to a Surf from Shimmer. I then switch to Speed as I know Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee have weak defenses. A simple Drill Peck finishes Hitmonchan. Machamp is a bit more difficult. I send in Sleepy and Psychic him. He uses Scary Face and heals with a Citrus Berry. He then cross-chops me and lands a crit. I Psychic him one more time and luckily it's enough to finish him. For Hitmonlee, I send in Speed again and a similar Drill Peck helps to finish him off. I finish the battle with a simple Surf from Shimmer on Bruno's Onyx. He's not the most difficult Elite Four member. Agatha is perhaps more difficult. I apprehend her Confuse Rays and High Special Sweepers. Gengar has me worried, and starts with a double team, and even though I land a Psychic, it doesn't quite get the job done. She full restores and I Psychic one more time. Luckily, even though she confuses me, my Psychic lands again. She brings in Golbat and I try Pipsqueak out. I Thunderbolt twice for a 2-hit KO, only taking damage from an Air Cutter. She then mean-looks me with a Haunter, but Sleepy has superior special attack and one hits him with the Psychic. For Arbok, I attempt to use Pipsqueak's Earthquake, but forget about Arbok's Intimidate. I luckily land a 2-hit knockout. Her final Gengar has me scared, and I send Sleepy back in. I forget about his Gengar's troublesome Hypnosis Dream Eater tactic, but luckily Sleepy has insomnia, so I stay awake. I land a Psychic and it almost knocks him out. He Shadow Balls me, which was what I was afraid of. It hurts, but I Shadow Ball him back for the finish. I am on to the final member of the Elite Four, Drake. He leads with a Gyarados, which I had apprehended. I try another Calm Mind tactic here, knowing it could help to sweep his Dragon team with Ice Beam. He keeps Dragon Raging and biting me, attempting to flinch. And straight when I think I've got the upper hand, a deadly Hyper Beam knocks out my prepared dude. I switched to Dugong by mistake because I felt flustered. I then switched to Pipsqueak, but remember he has to recharge after the Hyper Beam. A turn wasted. I use one of my 2 max revives on Dude. I Thunderbolt his Gyarados and even paralyze him. I then switch to Dude again and attempt another setup. This time I know his plan to slowly beat me down to half health and then Hyper Beat me. I keep up the Calm Minds and heal at half health as he does another Hyper Beam. I heal again and Calm Mind again. Finally I'm ready to Thunderbolt him. It of course takes him out. His Aerodactyl has me scared, but luckily after an Ancient Power I Thunderbolt him and sweep again. Dragonite attempts what Gyarados was doing, but I had apprehended this and healed. I simply Ice Beam and beat the Dragonite. His last 2 Dragonairs are no match for my calm-minded Ice Beams. Next is the champion, my rival, Green. He starts with his infamous Pidgeot. I counter with my bulky Shimmer. He takes a couple of aerial aces as I Ice Beam Pidgeot twice. His Rhydon is a good follow-up, a simple Surf. 2 Pokemon down already. I attempt to Ice Beam his Executor, but he uses Sleep Powder. I don't fall for this strategy twice. I send in Snow and attempt to Will-O-Wisp him. However, he counters with a Sleep again. He uses Egg Bomb on me once I full heal and it hurts. I then simply Flamethrower and he's down for the count. His Gyarados is a possible problem. I decide this time it's probably best to just Thunderbolt straight away. He lands 2 Thrashes and I land 2 Thunderbolts, knocking him out. His Charizard I am most afraid of. Those fire moves hit like a truck. I bring in Sleepy for the max special defense. I heal Shimmer and attempt to land something, but Sleepy is sacrificed. He slashes my Shimmer and I land a critical Surf. He heals and I land another Surf, but his Fire Blast is powerful. He Fire Blasts me one more time and I land a critical Surf, ending his ace. He's left with an Alakazam. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing here, but I swapped into Speed here and gave the league one for their own money. I barely survive a Psychic, but my Stab Hyper Beam ends my journey in a one-hit KO with Alakazam's inferior defense. I did it! I really enjoyed this ROM, guys. Nothing too difficult, just the way I like it. FireRed Essence is a ROM for those who want to live that classic experience but with a few perks. It makes the game easier to deal with, but gives those nostalgic vibes of earlier gen graphics, which I love so much. If you made it this far with me, thank you. I think I'm going to attempt Emerald Essence next, as it's basically the same idea here. I'm looking forward to actually starting from the beginning. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely day, guys. Bye for now.